on yet again another Tuesday, another week. From Studio B here in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District, I'm your host, Tom Eamon, along with our co-host and Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, Julia Vadakin.
Hello.
I trust you are well.
I am.
Blake Middleton checking in from the land of 10,000 lakes. He's the first one on yet again. John Emmett over in sunny Weymouth, otherwise known as Foil Town. Yeah, there's some foiling going on over there. Thierry DeYoung down in SoCal. Greg Phillips on the Gold Coast of Oz, where it's, what time is it there? 0800 in the morning? No, 0600 in the morning. He's up early.
I love Mark Hellen's comment. I'm not saying it's hot in Boston, but the lobsters landing at the pier are pre-boiled.
It's hot in the Northeast. Well, it's summertime.
Oh, I think it's...
and the living is easy. Hola from sunny Scarborough. It's over in England. It's nice, too. Chris Exley is in sweltering Salem, Mass. Becky Thompson from beautiful San Mateo County. Hello, Becky. Nice to have you on. Dogzilla Monster up in Seattle. Cheers from a pretty, partly sunny and 75-degree Seattle. Hello, everybody. Welcome to show number 8. What is it? 845, Julia?
Yes.
Bloody hell. Soon to 850, and before you know it, we'll be at
1,000.
Well, 900 anyway. I don't know if we're going to make it to 1,000. We'll make it to 900. Happy Tuesday,
Yes.
and happy midsummer. Speaking of the sweltering northern hemisphere summer heat, midsummer day in Sweden and in Scandinavia and beyond. It's actually celebrated, even though the solstice was Friday. We celebrated it on the show Friday.
Yeah, right.
But they celebrate midsummer's night and day in Sweden, at least on the 24th, which it is, of course, today. Fosy Focus from Studio B to the Norwegian Arctic, speaking of Scandinavia, and to the Adriatic and to SoCal and back. We got a full circle here today.
Wow.
Of focusing. I better be careful.
Yeah.
LA 28, a letter we received.
Oh, did you?
From LA Yacht Club staff Commodore Kelly Maria. She's a past Commodore of Los Angeles Yacht Club on why San Pedro, she says, is better. 2025 Transat race, no surprise. Juice 2 has a big lead, that VO70. It's closing in on the finish over at the Lizard. We'll feature the 31st Block Island Race Week. It's underway yesterday. All goes this week at Block Island, Rhode Island's beautiful Block Island, just off their south coast. First ever ORC North American Championships as well, being run in that event. Although New York Yacht Club did last year run the ORC World Championships last summer. But ORC making quite an impact here. Our old friend Bruno Finzi from Italy, who's the chairman of the Offshore Racing Congress. AC38, we have some more news in addition to Pistol Pete having moved to Italia. Josh Jr. as well. We've known that for some time, but it's now been, it's made the news in New Zealand. And also U.S. Sailing, the continuing saga about their serious, Julia, financial strife.
Oh, my goodness.
Sorry to say. The last leg, latest from a cold and blustery Keeler Voca. We got a video from that event. And let's see, Tim Kent is checking in. Greetings from a sailboat midway between Bermuda and North Carolina. Look at that. Nice to have somebody out in the Atlantic checking in. Tim, welcome. Larry Kennedy, Olaf from New York City's FIDI, the financial district, the U.S. ILCA Nationals this weekend at Sewanee Corinthian Yacht Club in Oyster Bay. Locust Valley, we call it one of the most affluent parts of this country on the north shore of Long Island, as the locals pronounce it. And, of course, our regular This Day in History and our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot and others. Let's get going here, Julia. Our feature, again, is the Storm Trysail's 31st Block Island Race Week. Started back in, I think, 1965-ish. But let's start with our Fosy. What's the plural of the Latin focus?
Foci.
Foci? F-O-C-I?
Uh-huh.
Not fuckuses or anything like that? I always try to make something croutonic out of that.
Yeah,
Andrew Pindar is checking in. I can pronounce a temporary truce. I can announce a temporary truce between Pedro and John over some disputed territory on respective merits of yeah, they were back and forth on the thread. We have a little thread of Super Fozy, and there was an all night when I woke up this morning, a long thread about center foilers versus side foiler, outboard foilers, and man, those two have gone at it.
They have.
Smart guys that they are. Well, let's get back to some other Fozy focus. Cool people, friends of Sailing Illustrated. Julia, do you recognize this Fozy? On a picnic table, on a wagon, behind a tractor. Does this help? A headline, a Reuters headline. Norwegian monarch visits polar Svalbard as interest in the Arctic grows. So who is that? His Majesty King Harald of Norway, who's a super sailor and a dear friend and a friend of this show. He watches it from time to time, we're told by his ADC. This is the Queen, from a story from a few days ago via Reuters. Norway's King Harald and Queen Sonja visited the main settlement on the strategically located Arctic archipelago of Svalbard on Monday at a time of increased interest in the resource-rich polar region from the USA, Russia, and China.
And
China. Focus on the Arctic's strategic importance for mining, shipping, and security has increased sharply because of repeated statements by DJT that he wants to take over Greenland, a semi-autonomous Danish territory. The Arctic also holds fossil fuels and minerals beneath the land and the seabed and is an area of military and economic competition. Quote, Svalbard is an important part of Norway and thus important to us all, King Harald, 88, said in a speech in Longyearbyen, the archipelago's main settlement. Quote, we see an increased interest in the Arctic and Svalbard. This creates challenges as well.
That's true.
As possibilities. And Julie, you'd think poorly of me if I did not have the video.
Oh, good.
Kjære alle sammen. Dronningen og jeg er glade for endelig å kunne besøke dere her I Balsfjord. Dere bor på et virkelig vakkert sted. Balsfjord er et viktig sted I norsk historie og I vår families historie. Hit kom altså kong Håkon og kronprins Olav og et lite følge I 1940. De var slitne flyktninger I eget land, fordrevet av den tyske okkupasjonsmakten. Balsfjord var min far og bestefars trygge havn I en skjebnetid for landet. For det vi dere evig takknemlige. Så det nesten litt som å komme hjem når vi besøker dere I dag.
Gordon Smith is saying that Norway has the world's largest sovereign investment fund, which is held in trust for the nation. Indeed, it's a fabulously wealthy country. His accent is interesting, Blake Middleton is commenting, because, he sounds more American than I. We sit together, or we used to, at these World Sailing, IWARU, ISAF meetings. And he grew up during World War II, his dad, King Olaf, shipped him over here, and he grew up Bethesda, Maryland. And the dad was up in this part of Norway, hiding out from the Nazis and running the Norwegian resistance. So he Harold sounds more American than we. So nice video and a nice celebration as the NATO leaders of NATO are meeting. And of course, Norway, a key part of that.
Absolutely.
And that's our Royal Fozy, HM King Harald, who his country actually is the guardian for NATO of that part of the world, of the northern climes there. Now, I asked Gordon Smith, who of course is a Brit living in Denmark.
Yes.
Julia, I asked Gordon if he could translate what the king said in that speech on the video, and he kindly did so. And he said, I'll give you a bit of it anyway. Quote, the Queen and I are happy to be able at last to visit Balsfjord. You live in a really amazing place. Balsfjord is an important place in Norwegian history and in our family history. His Majesty then goes on to highlight that it was a hiding place or at least a place where no one could see his dad, his King Olaf V. And I don't know about Håkon, his grandfather, but when Norway was occupied by the Nazis. So thank you very much, Gordon Smith, for that translation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, as I said, an interesting moment because the king, who is a sailor, and the guy will. I've had the pleasure of having lunch with him at Skaugum at the family castle in the Oslo Fjord.
That's fun.
And we've hung out on and off at various meetings. And here at St. Francis when he was racing, and he won a world championship. Did he win the 1-ton worlds or something here in San Francisco?
I don't know, but it was big. I remember that.
So he's a great guy, and he's so calm, and he's so even though he's one of, if not the most popular reigning royals in the world, but he's so calm and so popular and so just down to earth, especially when he's with sailors. He loves sailors. He loves sailing. He loves yacht racing and being with sailors, as does King Juan Carlos of Spain. But it was interesting that apparently it was so rough and windy and turbulent, and they couldn't get the royal yacht, that boat, up against the pier of the dock. So they had to put him in he's got two canes, and they had to put him in a chase boat, in a rubber boat, in some kind of a boat, get him over to some other dock that only could be accessed by that tractor and wagon, which is why he said, okay, put me in the wagon and I'll sit on the picnic table and then take me to the speech. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yep.
It's not the largest sovereign wealth fund. It's the largest investment fund of any kind, which is held in trust. Okay, Gordon, thank you for that. And congratulations to His Majesty and Queen Sonia for their continuing popularity. I call Norway a part of my heritage because my mother's father, was from Oslo, was Cedric Fredriksson.
Aha.
And my middle name is Frederick. As a result.
Yes.
Speaking of other foesy on the move, do you know who that is, Julia?
Pedro.
That is Pedro Foiling Sailor, a.k.a. Peter Stevenson, who is on a sojourn around Eastern and Central Europe. He has been, in fact, I don't know, he sent me that picture this morning. I said, send me a picture, Peter. Mm-hmm. And he didn't tell me where. I think that's in Croatia, but I'm not sure. But he sent that picture with kind of he looks a little bit like the Mona Lisa there. He looks like a bit enigmatic, doesn't he? Enigmatic?
No, he looks like he's saying, what are you talking about?
Well, he and I believe others, maybe his bride, I'm not sure who else, Istanbul, down through Troy, and then down through Turkey and over to Rhodes in Greece, and then over to Crete, and then up to Athens. And now from Athens, they've gone around the corner, Corfu and so on, and they've just this morning departed Split in Croatia, and they're headed finally to Venice. So he's on a tour.
Yes, I've done that.
Have you? Mm. Is it beautiful, as they say?
Yes, and what I was most taken aback with was Kotor, because it looks like a fjord, but a really green, verdant fjord, long, deep water. It was amazing, but the whole place is beautiful.
Well, he also sent, as you would expect, Julia, he sent a cartoon.
Oh, yes.
And he said, are you game enough to use this one, Tom? I don't think Julia would give it a finger wag. I'm covering up the text, but it apropos all the stuff that's going on over the weekend in the Middle East. I thought we should run this, but it has nothing whatsoever to do, Julia, with the Middle East. Mm-hmm. Witness this. Probably 1987 in my bedroom, thinking about my best mate's mom. Obviously, this guy's in an interview.
Yeah.
And he said, no. The interviewer said, no. I said, tell me about the West Bank. You want to give that a finger wag? Tell me about the West Bank. I knew you'd give that a finger wag. It's pretty good, though.
Yeah.
Wasn't that good?
Yes.
That's from Peter Stevenson, Julia, and I knew you would not approve, so that's why I put it in.
I know.
And to give us something to talk about without talking about vitamin B2, that cartoon and some of the others. Now, the next thing is about that. I told you on Friday's show about the copyright strike from using music, a YouTube video that I used about Australia, about Brisbane.
Uh-huh.
And it was, just a YouTube video that I used, and I didn't recognize the music. It was bespoke music, or so I thought. It wasn't, some popular tune that might be copyrighted. But it turns out there is an outfit called Music for Sport in the UK that produces a lot of music for sporting type videos.
Oh, well, that's good.
And famously so. So I got a copyright strike. First time, I think, ever on YouTube that we got a copyright strike. And they send you a nice letter and say, hey, so-and-so objected. Here's their email address. Write to them if you want to try to object.
Yeah.
So I wrote an email thinking I'd never hear back from them.
Right.
Some gentleman in the UK. Well, it turns out the gentleman in the UK is named Simon, by the name of Simon Webb. And he's now a FOSI.
Oh, yay.
He wrote back very promptly, and he is before I tell you all that is back and forth, Simon Webb's a British composer, musical director, arranger, and publisher. At school, he was a chorister and an organ scholar. Claire Harrington will like this guy.
Uh-huh.
She also being an organ scholar. Tulips on an organ, I suppose. I couldn't help it, Joey.
Oh.
My dad's favorite joke. And he read music at York University, specializing in composition, conducting, and the 20th century music. Upon graduation, he was appointed musical director of the Theatre Royal York.
Yay.
I mean, this guy's the real deal. He subsequently wrote the music for many productions there, including Dr. Faustus, The Devil's Law Case, Twelfth Night, and A Midsummer Night's Dream. Later, he worked in theaters all over the UK, writing and directing music. So I don't know anything about this guy when I write to him, but I get a nice note back saying, hey, send me £50 and I'll release the copyright. And I said, well, we're just a simple, modest little video podcast twice a week, but we talk about sailing. And he said, oh, sailing.
Ah.
So now we're making a connection via, I haven't talked to him except by email and maybe text. Simon Webb co-founded Music for Sport in 1992 and is now the CEO. He is also co-host of the podcast Synchronize, to which I listened to briefly this morning, talking about music and music production and yada, yada. He is a keen sports fan, cricket mad, and enjoys building and sailing catamarans in his spare time. Music for Sport is his way of pulling together the strands of two of his greatest passions in life, music and sport.
He's one of our guys.
He is one of our guys, Julia. And here in 2014 is the second. He launched a little 14-footer some years ago. And then this is his latest and greatest boat called Spider Cat. It's a Simpson is the designer, a 9-meter catamaran that he sails all over that corner of the world, UK and Europe. And here's a photo he sent me the other day from last weekend, the weekend before last, as Spider Cat. He was out he said, by the way, I'm on my boat as we speak. I'll get the copyright release when I get back to shore. Give me a couple days and just give me a little bit of ink on your show. Hence,
oh my gosh,
this segment. So he not only released the copyright, but we have a new FOSI. He was quite pleased
that's
to
great.
help us. And thank you very much. Here he is last weekend or the weekend before maybe in Rabness, which I'd never heard of. Rabness?
No.
Rabness on the east coast of Great Britain, and I had to go look to see where that is. There you can
there it
see
is.
it is right there.
Yeah.
Rabness. So there it is, and that's where he was. Rabness, Manningtree, Essex, population 370 people. And finally, a video from his company about his, sports music.
Oh.
And using, guess what? This is one of their promo videos.
Oh, neat.
How is that? So no copyright strike. Music for Sport, Simon Webb, thank you very much. A new FOSI.
Yes.
And maybe we'll do some other business with him, Julia.
What a good idea.
Maybe he'll do a theme for this show. Or he has some, he's probably got a lot of stuff sitting on the shelf, figuratively speaking, in the
Right.
can, we might say,
Yes.
on the recorder. And maybe he'll send us something and he'll say, use this as your theme after he has a look at our show and decides we're not too croutonic.
Yes.
Blake Middleton, yeah, great choice for a promo video. Yep, good guy, great stuff, and a new Fozy. Julia,
Sir.
what are we celebrating today? I said it at the top of the show. I didn't even hide it today because I thought we'd all remember it from Friday. It's Midsummer Day.
Oh, yes.
And Midsummer Day, of course, it's the time of the year when the sun shines brighter and the nights grow shorter, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. And, of course, in the Southern Hemisphere, they're cheering up, too, because their days are getting longer, even as ours now gets shorter. Celebrate the season with bonfires, flowers, and fun. Midsummer Day marks the celebration of the summer season in the Northern Hemisphere. In many cultures, Midsummer Day was seen as a time of fertility, abundance, and the renewal of life. Great things to celebrate, eh?
Absolutely.
Huh?
Absolutely.
You celebrate those things every day.
I try to.
Over time, this day has also become associated, in especially Catholic countries, with St. John the Baptist, an important figure in Christian religion, and the solstice day was turned into St. John's Day in many countries. While it is a day observed by many countries around the world, Midsummer Day has stronger ties to the Scandinavian nations, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, where it is still viewed and celebrated in a big way. And Julia,
Absolutely.
here's the video.
I can attest to that.
Time to forget about Swedish minimalism and embrace our pagan roots. It's midsummer. Marking the official start of summer, midsummer is one of Sweden's most important holidays. This is a celebration you don't want to miss. Let me give you a few pointers on how to get the most out of your Swedish midsummer experience. This is a day when we can let our hair down, laugh a little too loud, and dance like no one is watching. So, if you want to truly take part in the celebration, join us as we dance and hop around the maypole and do the small frogs dance. The midsummer meal is something we Swedes look forward to all year long. Pickled herring, buttery new potatoes with dill, cured salmon, and strawberries and cream. Go on, dig into this summertime smorgasbord. No one's judging you. You might think vodka is our national spirit, but it's the flavored akvavit called snaps that is part of our holiday celebrations. However, just as important as the snaps are the snapsvisor, or drinking songs. Join in as we sing some of our favorites like Helan går, which means drink the whole thing. Helan går. Skål!
With a little prepping, you might
If you're
just
still on
find
the
true
hunt
love.
for
it
that
says
special
there.
someone,
Good
make sure
idea.
to pick 7 flowers and place them under your pillow after the day's festivities have ended. Folklore says you'll then dream of your true love. Now that I've told you all you need to know to make the most out of your midsummer celebrations, you are ready to join the fun. Practice your frog dance. Brush up on your snapsvisor, and we'll see you soon.
Get out the glug and toast the holiday. Well, we ought to toast the holiday, Julia.
All right.
You can have some of Clayton Embly's bourbon cream here.
His Swedish bourbon cream.
Well, the expression on that lady's face when she took the schnapps.
I know. I have lovely stories about
You and your late husband spent a lot of time with Auntie Vantas in Finland, right?
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah. After everybody had gone to bed at midnight, the next door neighbors came and woke us all up and brought us all over to their house in a wagon.
Julia, you've never gone to sleep before 2 a.m. Then you are a
Try not to.
You're a nighthawk. How is that? How's that taste?
Good.
Gordon Smith says, needless to say, it doesn't work if you can no longer count the 7. Okay. So what's John Sangmeister saying? He's staying out there talking about the whole thing with U.S. Sailing and World Sailing and the board of directors, the LA City Council and so on. But we'll get to that in a second because we're also celebrating, as always, Julia, our FOSI. We celebrate all of you, especially those of you who join as patrons via patreon.com/join.
Yes.
/Sailing Illustrated, as John Sangmeister and Blake Middleton and any number of others have. Thank you very much for your support. Julia?
Sir.
Getting toward the end of June, no announcement yet on that Olympic venue and no announcement on the America's Cup protocol, which was due by June 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Everybody forgets.
June 20th, Julia.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
I'm not surprised.
Bravo Zulu is in order. And we'll do a quick Bravo Zulu, who well done in praise of performance. Speaking of John Emmett, guess who that is, Julia?
Yes.
Did you see that picture?
Yes.
When that came through, there's John, who has won yet another. He is the GOAT, at least in the ILCA 6. In the Masters, he's won another Masters championship. This, the Europeans. It was held at Hailing Island. We talked about it on Friday's show. Well, left is Mara Dewey from Canada, and on the right is John Harvey from Great Britain. And John said, he texted me the other day, and he said, I'm very pleased to come away with the win at the 2025 Masters Europeans. Now back to coaching. He was at Hailing Island. And there is the top 10. There are the top 10. John right on top. Ross Harvey. And he is, I think AM is apprentice master, and Maura Dewey is also an apprentice master from Canada. There she is, but also she was the top female. So she has 2 medals around her neck, as does John, who I think not only won, but then he was also in top in whatever his master category is.
That's great.
Right?
Great to see.
And we won't make any jokes about masters or about baiting or any of that stuff, right? Outstanding, John. Congratulations. Mark Holland says John Emmett looks unusually smug in that picture. You think?
He does.
He just looks happy.
I got here.
Yes, the AMs, the apprentice masters, are in their early 30s, and a master is over 45. Yeah, the Finn class has even, I don't know, they've got super masters and exalted masters and grand. Yeah, they got all those things. Bravo Zulu, John, which leads us into his coaching corner report for today. John Emmett, get to the front of the fleet with a coaching corner from our super FOSI, John Emmett.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the FOSI. So first of all, to people who are watching the show live, you know what to do. Probably don't need to say it again. And welcome to Windy Weymouth. We can see the Olympic rings here in the back. And I've got to say, it's quite unusual to have such strong easterlies this time of year. I mean, it's the second half of the year. The days are only getting shorter for now in the Northern Hemisphere. It's funny, I thought the longest day was June 21st, but I know it alters from year to year and is probably normally on the 20th on a leap year. But I digress. It's been pretty windy, as you can probably tell. I've got my little ferry, so hopefully you can hear me. In fact, you can probably hear the dragon boaters in the background. And that means, sailing is a sport, and it means it's really hard work for the sailors. I'm thinking of Lily now, who's racing a Cape 31 on main sheet, and that sounds like quite a lot of hard work. So I have an exhausted wifey, but very happy, because any day on the water is a good day. And it's important to remember that these are all good days. I think most of us would happily change our lives for 20 years ago in terms of where our current state of health or fitness, etc. was. However, troublesome things seem at the moment. And one of the things as we get older, I think probably we only ever get busier, or certainly it seems that way. My mum, in her 80s, bless her, is retired, still manages to fill every single hour of the day she can. And I was just thinking back about the memories, and 2012 is very special to me for a lot of reasons. We had that home games, although rumour has it that the UK may bid for another game in the future. And that medal race was a very special thing for me. And you had 4 boats going into a finals and obviously only 3 medals. And I felt that was a very fair result, because actually they'd had a lot of racing to get to that point. Then it was last race is the winner. Effectively, you finish in the way you finish in the last race, which is very different from just taking a series, throwing it away and saying, now the last race wins. And I remember 2012 for a lot of reasons. And it did make me think, you can definitely hear the youth. We are live recording. We got the youths going on in the background just to show that it's live. Hopefully a young person's not going to knock over the video camera. But yeah, that 4-boat final is something which I think is very special. Although the problem is when you're doing media, well, to put it the other way around, the more countries you have participating, the more people watch. So I would love to have 50 Ilkas doing the Olympics, because then maybe you'd have 50 countries watching, whereas as soon as you go to medal race and there's only 10 countries competing, probably you only get 10. But I think it would be good to have 4-boat finals at the Sail GP. We've got Portsmouth coming up and it's less than 1 month to go. I'm going to be there at least on one of the days doing media coverage, so tell me who you want me to interview and what you want me to ask them. But yeah, I think a 4-boat final for Sail GP would be good, because it would mean you wouldn't end up with this 2 boats sailing away in a match race and sort of 1 boat behind. You could end up with 2 simultaneous match races going on, who knows. And I just think the more people involved, the better, especially if they go to 2 fleets of 8. If we look in the background, there's a lot of excitement because they're just about to go sailing. So I think I better go and do my coaching duties. As always, a reminder that, the youth of today are the future of our sport tomorrow. And, things do progress. If we look at the boats we have now, they're low maintenance, easy to look after. And fleet size is really important. I've always been a huge fan of one design racing, and I think that's always going to be the case. So on that point, I think 4-boat finals would be quite a bit of drama. So that's something I'll be interested to see in the future. And for everyone who's racing themselves, sail fast. Always makes you a tactical genius. Sail safe, and most of all, keep it fun. Bye for now.
Yeah, I wonder where everybody is watching, what they're doing while they're watching the show. I wonder if you care to put it in the chat. I see that.
It'd be interesting to know.
What are you doing? Housework? Are you in the office? I see somebody said they're on a treadmill. Who said that? I'm Baton Rouge, Baton Cannon in Charleston, normally. South Carolina, saying, I'm watching the show on a treadmill. Where are the rest of you watching it?
Yeah, it would be interesting to know. Would be interesting to know.
What are you doing? Gordon Smith has probably got his feet propped up there in Denmark. I saw John Sangmeister on. Andrew Pindar is at Forlanini. Tom Fishbeck down in Newport Beach normally is in the V-berth. We're in the V-berth.
On his boat.
I tell you where one of our foes is. I haven't told you this, Julia, but Tom Sr., my dad, had a valve replaced. He'd been calling it. He said, I'm going in for a valve job, like somebody's going to fix his car engine.
Right.
The guy's 92, and they did a TAVR, transaortic valve replacement, where they go in through your groin, through the artery. Yeah. And they go up with a valve and stick it in place of the aortic valve that's croutonic. And you're in, they don't crack you. It's not an open heart. Yeah. They go in, and he survived that. And he's probably watching the show, or at least maybe he'll watch it in replay, but he's laying board in the hospital. Yeah. And I've been talking with his partner this morning, who's saying, everything went fine. They're going to let him out tomorrow unless there's any complication. Wow. Overnight. For a valve replacement in your heart. It's unbelievable. So, Pop, Dad?
Yes, indeed.
Good going. Keep at it. And we'll see you. I'll be in Michigan a week from Wednesday. So we'll see you then. Looking forward to it. Do a little racing and a little 4th of July action at the home club. And John Emmett, thank you very much for your report, reminding us that it's really all about having fun, having a good, firm discussion. A good, serious discussion about things. And and John and I don't agree on a lot of stuff with respect to the Olympics and so on. Right. I know John Sangmeister doesn't, and John always agree, and John is, he's always got an opinion, that's for sure. John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet. We like people who have an opinion, right?
Yes.
Including those of you who have an opinion on getting parasailing reinstated for Brisbane 2032. Just a reminder, we would love to get people backing this. I know that the Aussies are hard at work, our Aussie sailing friends and family and Fozy, including Alistair Murray, who's in Europe himself, like Peter Stevenson. And they're, they get the hell out of Dodge and get to Europe where it's summertime and have an overseas experience in their latter years.
Right.
Get parasailing reinstated for Brisbane 2032. Any of you have got any influence, we need to get it back in as a demonstration event.
Right.
And that's what we hope is happening sooner than later. Speaking of not happening, we were promised a decision, we thought, a couple months ago, but who knows if this is good news or bad news, because the decision, maybe it's a non-issue and maybe they're not going to change what has already been decided, which is that the correct venue is Long Beach.
Right.
And they've already, LA 28, the organizing committee for the LA Olympics 2028, have already said sailing, yacht racing, will be in Long Beach, not in San Pedro, which is the port of LA, which is busy, which is dirty, which is dangerous, and yada, yada, yada. This is not correct. It's not the right place to do it. And there are LA politicians and people associated with the LA Yacht Club, which is in San Pedro, in that basin, who would love to have the Olympics there on their front doors, on their, right in their front yard. So it's not correct.
No,
it's not the right place to do it, Julia.
I keep thinking, I've been to the LA Yacht Club. I don't know how many, not so many, 4 or 5. And it always just seems that it's so small.
Well, that whole area is a big parking lot, and the LA Yacht Club's nice. There's even an arguably nicer yacht club, Cabrillo Beach, which is in that same basin. And they're a fine yacht club.
I've not been to
but it's
Cabrillo
not
Beach.
Is nearly as good a place to sail as Long Beach.
No.
And worse than that, if they're talking now about splitting these two venues and running the dinghies at the port of LA in San Pedro, and they're running the boards, meaning the kites and the windsurfers, off the beach in Long Beach, which is a logistics nightmare for the coaches, the team managers, the sailers, and for LA 28. Now they've got to secure yet another area. They're not planning to give a Olympic venue secure this place.
Right.
And it's just, but the port's got a lot of money, so follow the money. And if LA, which is in serious financial trouble, we've said this before on the show, I won't beat this horse any deader than we already have. But, excuse me, this lady, whom I've not met, wrote us yesterday. Her name is Kelly Marie. She is the past, she was in 2023, the Commodore of LA Yacht Club. So she's past Commodore once or twice removed now. Yeah. And she said in a statement I saw of hers online that the LA Yacht Club is on a mission to lead by example in improving diversity and inclusion in the sailing community. In addition to electing 3 women and 2 people of color as Commodore over the past 2 decades, LA Yacht Club recently appointed 5 women to the board of directors. The elections for the Commodores for 2025 and 2026 have already occurred, and female Commodores were elected for both terms. Okay, if that's their major project, great. But how about running an Olympic event that is in the best sailing venue for the sailors, which is what I'm hoping we see. In any event, here is the Commodore. She is the current Commodore. LA Yacht Club Commodore Marjorie Irvin is her name. And yes, her Vice Commodore is also a female, is a woman. And here's the letter that came in yesterday from Kelly Marie. Greetings. I hope this message finds you well. My name's Kelly Marie, and since last October, I've been working passionately to bring the Olympic Sailing Games back to Los Angeles, where they first were held on the West Coast in 1932. This historic and world-class waterfront is more than ready to host the LA 28 Olympic sailing events once again. What she doesn't tell you is that when they hosted the Olympic sailing events there in 1932, as you all know, in 84, they were in Long Beach, properly so. But in 32, it was a different world. There was that the LA port was quite small, and the breakwater and a lot of things were different. And it was probably a fairly decent venue then. But I'm going to cut to the chase here. She also says in this letter, this is more than a venue. It's a platform to redefine the sport of sailing on the global, not spelled correctly, on the global, I make spelling mistakes too, so I'm not going to be critical of her for that. On the global stage, making it more inclusive, more visible, and more powerful than ever before. We can inspire and empower the next generation from grassroots to high performance. Well, again, maybe so, and maybe that's good. I know Gordon Smith's in favor of that, as he just said. And probably Stingray's in favor of that too. And I'm in favor of it, not perhaps as much as some of you, but what I am in favor of is having a venue where the sailing teams from all the countries will be happy, that's inexpensive, that's logistically easy for them to operate, and provides great sailing conditions, as Long Beach did in 1984. Mm-hmm. So this is a great letter. Thank you, Kelly Marie. I'm going to reply to her and see what else she has to say. But that is from LA Yacht Club's, what they call here on the West Coast, Staff Commodore, meaning past Commodore, Kelly Marie. Now, we've been telling you incorrectly that the 1932 Olympics were also in Long Beach, and that is not true. We want to do a mea culpa here and a correction and tell you what is true, that it was in fact in 32 held there outside the breakwater for the 6 meters, the 8 meters, and the Star Class. It was the Star Class's first ever appearance in the Olympic Games. Now, Julia, for extra credit, do you know what the 4th class was, which is the letter S there on that graphic? There was a 4th dinghy class raced inside the breakwater, and they had all sorts of problems running it, by the way, inside the breakwater. And, if you have 6 meters and 8 meters and starboats, you need cranes, and maybe it made sense to do it in the port of LA, where they had more crane and more water lifting capacity than they would have in LA and Long Beach. So lots of keelboats, yeah. No, not the Sabot, Chris Exley. Anybody else have an idea what that S? Not the Snipe, Blake Middleton. Call a boat called not the Hairsoft S. Tom Fishbeck has the correct answer. Hey. Not the Soling Commodore Harrington. It was the Snowbird. And here is a Snowbird. It was a dinghy of, was it 14 feet or so? And those were the 4 classes in 1932 sailed off the port of Long Beach, LA rather. 6 meter, 8 meter, the Starboat in its first use in the games. And the Snowbird inside the breakwater was not good sailing conditions, and it was that boat's only use. In fact, according to Wikipedia and the IOC, the Snowbird was raced inside the breakwater and in the morning before the sea breeze kicked in, because they were worried about it being too windy and rough outside of the breakwater for that dinghy. And they were running it in the morning and didn't get many races in because of that, before the sea breeze fills. Now, all of you who've sailed in that part of the world know that the sea breeze fills in afternoon, sometimes after 1 o'clock, even 2 o'clock.
Yes.
So there it is. And that's according to the Wikipedia.
I'm glad to have that.
And IOC. And I couldn't find a picture of a Snowbird other than this pic from the museum in Newport Beach. That is called, that is the Snowbird. And that is in what's the name of this? I'll get it here in a second. But the Snowbird is an American sailboat that was initially designed by Willis Reed as a one-design racer and first built in 1921. The boat was redesigned by Ed Schock in the 1940s, and it became a popular junior class. The boat was used as a one-design competition class for sailing at the 1932 Olympic Games, and that is Snowbird number 1 that was in the Newport, and I don't believe it still is there, in the Newport Harbor Nautical Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, times have changed. It makes the Ilka look modern. Well, John, I keep saying that. The Ilka is modern.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly, Bravo Zulu to the Commodore, as Gordon Smith is saying, for writing directly to us. I think it was a boilerplate letter that probably went to a lot of media, but at least she did send it to us as well.
Mm-hmm.
Alistair Murray saying, wow, I've never heard of the Snowbird. And frankly, I had never heard of it either.
Mm-mm.
There is a race, as Blake Middleton is pointing out, called Flight of the Snowbirds, which probably dates back to this class. It's an annual event in Newport Beach, and it used to be apparently presumably in these boats, and every kid got out there, and sometimes adults, and it was up and down Newport Harbor, and it's a kind of a rite of spring
Right.
type event in maybe a rite of summer in Newport Beach, Newport Harbor. Then it was after the Snowbird, I assume. Somebody, Fishbeck, somebody tell me if I'm wrong. But then they used to use something else.
Snowbirds are tourists.
Well, yeah, snowbirds are Canadian tourists that come to
Right.
SoCal or Arizona or Florida even, snowbirds, and Michigan too. But after the Snowbird, then they used another boat, and I'm not sure what they used, maybe the OK dinghy or the Newport. There was another dinghy called the Newport, I think. And today, the Flight of the Snowbirds, still called that, is raced in lasers, in Ilkas.
It is.
Yeah, it is. And I think, yeah, Roger Lockhart's confirming that. Flight of the Snowbirds switched to lasers. But wasn't there an intermediate boat and something in between? Somebody tell me. Okay. Flight of the Snowbirds is a race between senior citizens leaving Florida at the end of winter.
Yes.
I thought it was the Flight of the Snowbirds leaving Canada to get to Florida at the start of winter. Okay, regardless. Oh, the kite. It was the kite. That's the one. Tom Fishbeck, thank you. Yeah, I think they went from snowbirds to kites to Ilkas. Thank you. Gordon Smith says it looks like an ugly mirror dinghy. He had some nasty things to say about the mirror dinghy this morning when he and John Emmett were having that back and forth. Did you see that?
No.
Okay, you go ahead.
No, I don't have any idea what that mirror dinghy
Yeah.
is.
Okay, it's a British boat.
Okay.
Okay, here's a summary of the situation. The planned location remains for the Olympics, the Sailing Olympics, for Belmont Shore, Long Beach, California. Potential alternative is San Pedro, the Port of LA, advocated by Council Member McCosker, who represents that district. Arguments for San Pedro: better winds, not really. Improved safety, for sure not. Potential for more revenue, perhaps. But again, let's run the sailing where the sailors have the best racing. Arguments for Long Beach: historically a successful sailing venue. Yes, fabulous event in 1984. And I was there. I was the jury secretary and the technical director for the event. U.S. Olympic Sailing Program has established a base there, as have many other countries, and dependable summer winds.
That
is true in spades. Current status: Long Beach has been confirmed as a sailing venue by the LA 28 organizing committee, and Olympic sailors are already training there. So one can only hope, Julia,
Yes.
that it remains there and that we get an announcement soon. Andrew McIrvin adding some background here. Fireflies were the small boat used in 1948, Uffa Fox design, the famous Uffa Fox. Still the best team racing dinghy. It's a great boat. Julie has never heard of the Mirror. It was my top 10 boats of all time, Alistair Murray is saying.
Oh.
Yeah, the Mirror dinghy is, it was named, it's sort of like the DN, the Detroit News, the DN ice boat here was named after the Detroit News, or the Optimist, which was named after the Optimist Club in Florida that started that class.
Yep.
And the Mirror newspaper, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Alistair Murray, or any of the other Brits, got that boat, kind of build in your garage, build in your basement type of boat.
Gordon Smith, more than 70,000 of them were built.
Indeed. Smoke that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I know.
So, yeah, I'm surprised. A lot of Americans probably would not have heard of the Mirror dinghy, and I have heard of. I've actually sailed one. I sailed a regatta in one, in fact, in Chicago, of all places.
Wow.
Didn't Elfstrom win his first gold in the Firefly? I believe that is correct, Steve Groover. And then, of course, the Firefly got replaced for extra credit by
I have no idea.
the Finn dinghy in 1956. And the Finn dinghy then carried on. So you see the Snowbird goes through. That's the original dinghy class, single-handed dinghy in the Olympic Games, then through the Finn and now the Ilka. The laser.
Uh-huh.
Amazing what things we come up with here on Sailing Illustrated.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Any Dogzilla Monster? AK. Oh, God. I'm saying someday I'm going to tell his real name here on the show. He's in a witness protection program up in Seattle, so we can't tell it. But he's a great guy, worked for Boeing. And on Facebook, he's known as Stingray.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, any good restaurant recommendations in San Pedro? No, but we have a good one, a good recommendation in Long Beach.
We do.
That's John Sangmeister's Gladstones. Okay, I have some sad news here before we leave all this Olympic madness in Long Beach, and that is about U.S. sailing. And we've been waiting for their financial report from 2024, their audited report, and it's still not out. One hears there's an audit committee meeting on Monday to bless the financial report, but one also hears that they lost another big sum of money, something like $2 million in 2024, and they are seriously underwater.
Oh.
Now, I'm not going to tip the logo over all the way, but they've obviously capsized, and I'm going to tip the logo over partway. Let me back it up to that previous. Multiple sources tell me they will run out of cash in August after an operating loss of $2 million last year, on top of the it's almost $2 million loss, maybe more, that they had the year before that. So I hope the president, and especially Charlie Enright, who was our guest on this show not very long ago. Charlie, if you're watching, we are all pulling for you.
Absolutely.
To right the ship. But it's sounding very difficult. In fact, one also hears that members of the board of directors have kicked in money to try to keep the place afloat.
Mm-hmm.
One also hears that maybe some money from one of the foundations that was supposed to be used for supporting our Olympic sailors didn't get used for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I hope U.S. sailing gets sorted out here quick. I feel for Charlie. I agree, John Emmett. We all do. Good luck to Charlie.
Absolutely.
Alistair Murray was very kind in offering to help in any way that he could, giving advice as a past president of a major federation. And Andrew McGurven raises a very interesting question, because one hears that world sailing is also in a world of hurt, Julia, financially, fiscally, and a lot of people have left. A number of staff have left, as we detailed a couple, 3 shows ago, right?
It would be interesting to have a real look at why that happened.
Well, you're right. We should get into that. But right now, let's just hope that Charlie Enright can get some donations in there from senior series people, cut the expenses, get the membership pooping along again, and saves the sport, at least in this country. Otherwise, they're going to have to bankrupt the place and start over. They're going to have to bankrupt the place and start over. Now, I have a lot of sympathy for Charlie and the president, for that matter.
Absolutely.
Because remember, when I went to work for what was then USYRU in 1979, 46 years ago.
Yeah. So we're young, really young whippersnapper.
Well, I was 24. And I went to work for them as the one design director. In October, they made me the executive director. They promoted me to the top job because we didn't have an executive director, number one. Number two, we had already started to right the ship. And so I have a lot of sympathy for Charlie and the rest of the senior series, especially Charlie, who's just new. He didn't create the problem. He didn't. No. But they've got to cut expenses. They got to cut staff. They had 50 people on the staff in Newport doing essentially the same things that I had 20 people doing back 40. Okay, times are different. Back 40 some odd years ago.
Should be easier now.
And as David James says, even a one-off donation, even if well-intentioned, won't fix underlying fiscal issues. Bravo Zulu, David. That is a very keen observation and fine point.
Yes.
The fine fiscal guy that he is, Julia.
He is.
You know that firsthand.
I do.
David James, who substituted, sat at your desk when you had your broken foot, when you were in recovery. Okay, let's hope that gets sorted out. Let's get on to happier news, which is the transatlantic race we told you about the other day that started last Wednesday at Castle Hill in Newport, Rhode Island. I have since confirmed that in that photo, this person whose bum is in the air is not Vice Commodore Claire Harrington firing the cannon. Wouldn't that be so? Oops, that's that green thing. I got to get that software guy. He's promised to fix that. So when I change scenes, the green goes away.
Yeah.
But back on that photo, I can tell you with some certainty that that is Claire. That is CTB, as Magnus the Magnificent called it, Claire the Brilliant, on the hill with not one but two radios, one to her race committee and one to her to the race committee comm channel with the fleet. So there she is up on top of Castle Hill, one of the great spots in Newport, the famous Castle Hill Lighthouse that marks the entrance to the East Passage of Narragansett Bay. That was last Wednesday, as we said, and you recognize all those burgees, Julia, that put on the transatlantic race, have been for some years.
Yeah.
You recognize the red cross on the blue flag. That's
Right.
New York Yacht Club, of course. How about the white? How about the red cross on the white flag that have the cross burgees with New York?
I don't know it.
Andrew McIrvin will think poorly of you. That is the Royal Yacht Squadron. Two of the most prestigious clubs in the history of our sport.
Indeed.
And then over there on the right are two other clubs that are key to organizing this race. The Royal Ocean Racing Club, celebrating their 100th year. And on the right side of that, the Sail. Come on, remember?
I don't.
We're going to talk about them some more here in a second. Here is the race going on. There's the tracker from this morning. Choose 2. Choosey 2.
It's way far ahead.
It's way out ahead. That's the Volvo 70. And they have a big lead, no surprise, on what is now day 7, if you count Wednesday as day 1. So day 7 of the Transat. They're almost, again, the finish we told you is at the Lizard. They're doing a finish out here because that's traditionally where the Transat finished. They put a virtual gate out there, although they will continue to race into the Solent and finish off the Cow's Castle, off the clubhouse. And yes, that other flag is right. Yar Vahe is Storm Trysail Club. And Andrew McIrvin says, yes, he will think poorly of you, Julia, for not knowing. He's a member of the esteemed and august and sometimes pretentious Royal Yacht Squadron.
Oh, yes.
But that's where the race will finish. And bravo salute to everybody involved in this race. It's been going on in various iterations for many, many years and is well led by Christian Zugel's Volvo 70 Choose 2 that also won RORC's, their transatlantic race.
Yeah.
What, late last year, earlier this year?
Yeah. They look all
What? Go ahead.
tuckered up in there.
Yeah, in fact, I think that photo, Julia,
Yep.
I think that photo is actually from
Last year.
the RORC's transatlantic race, not this year's transatlantic race. It was the best high-res photo of that yacht I could find. In fact, I think also the New York Yacht Club and Storm Trysail used that in their promotion of this year's race, saying that boat was the early favorite, and it clearly is.
Absolutely.
It's on the marmalade jar. See that, Julia?
Oh.
We got to go back to the marmalade jar. You can see it over my shoulder. Which way shall I turn?
Somebody else found mine the other day, and
there it is. Let's see if we get some autofocus here. It's not focusing there. It's because it's focusing on my face.
Yeah, there it goes.
It is. There it goes.
Yeah.
So that is a gift from Mr. Dr.
Yes.
Andrew McIrvin.
As I said, somebody found mine, and and it's almost gone now.
Well, you found it up in your
In the
closet
cup,
full
yeah.
of. Let's don't get into whether those are called jams or preserves or all the other stuff. Marmalade. Man, we got into an argument here on the show a year or so. A couple
It is a
years.
marmalade.
Did Julia eat the marmalade?
Yes.
Stingray, Dogzilla monster.
Yes,
once
of
in a-
course. It was wonderful.
No, Gordon Smith. We're talking about the Royal Yacht Squadron, not you. The poor bow guy doesn't even get foulies. Well, speaking of poor bow guys, it's rather warmer now. This is a shot of the TP-52 Fox, which for a while was a what was that class called down in SoCal? They called it the something 52 class.
I don't know.
And this is the race going on as we speak at Storm Trysail's 31st Block Island Race Week, modeled on the Cows Week. 163 yachts are
Wow.
racing for titles, including the first ever ORC, Offshore Racing Congress North American Championships. They're racing at Block Island. That's the cut from the inside the Block Island.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Pac 52. Oh, Chris Bretschker's watching.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so that is the cut out to the ocean, Rhode Island Sound, technically, and where the racing is going on. The Salt Pond actually is the inner body there. Racing in the 31st Block Island Race Week got underway on Monday, with the North Sails Race Day. After a 1-hour wind delay, the three fleets motored through the cut it was light yesterday, to their respective race course for a 12 noon start. As the sea breeze filled in from the southwest, the wind stayed stable for the remainder of the afternoon. The winner of the 2023's Everett B. Morris Perpetual Trophy, which is the boat of the week, for the 30th Block Island Race Week, Deja Voodoo, what a great boat name, won the day in the 17 boat, I think it's the biggest class, J105 class, which is also the One Design Fleet's East Coast Championship.
Mhm.
This boat, Summer Storm, is also having a good go, opening up the ORC North American Championship. Summer Storm sailed a banner day. It was a beautiful day with great racing. We are looking forward to the rest of the week, said the owner and Storm Trysail Club member Andrew Burden. Quote, conditions were light to start, but filled in later, giving us a glorious day of sailing. Block Island Race Week is a lot of fun, Julia. It's a party. It's like Cows Week. It's even like the Big Boat Series here, which is now only 4 days.
Yeah.
But it's just one of these great.
I've never done that.
Oh, it's a fabulous gathering of boats and crews. There's over 1,000 sailors, probably over 1,500 sailors.
Mhm.
Racing boats were accompanied offshore by pods of dolphins trying to catch a glimpse of the action. Yeah, right. While families and friends of sailors awaiting their return on shore, mudslides in hand.
Mhm.
Scroll down for a link to full result. Well, we won't do that until Friday. We'll give you some results on Friday. But just in case those of you who are geographically challenged don't know where Block Island is, it is out in Rhode Island Sound, Block Island Sound, in fact. And New Shoreham is the town on Block Island. And it is, I learned a new word, it is coterminous. Do you know the word coterminous? It is coterminous with Block Island, meaning like the city of San Francisco and the county of San Francisco are coterminous.
So
They
the same
share the
name.
same,
Name.
the same boundaries.
Oh, okay.
Coterminous. You learn something new every day.
I am
At
glad
least
to know
I
that.
do. So there it is. There's Block Island, and it's an island of the Outer Lands coastal archipelago. Archipelago? Do you say archipelago or archipelago?
I say Arca.
Archipelago. I think I was saying archipelago in the Swedish in the earlier segment. It's part of the Outer Lands coastal archipelago in New England, located approximately 9 miles south of mainland Rhode Island and 14 miles east of Long Island's Montauk Point. You can see Montauk Point down here.
Yeah.
So there's the distance between those two. And you can see that it's just another shallow spot that goes all the way out here to, in fact, I believe that's where Commodore Harrington is right now. I think she's out in Martha's Vineyard at her home out there as we speak. I think she flew out there this morning. The island, Julia, is coterminous
Yes.
with the town of New Shoreham. Rhode Island, and is part of, I had to look it up.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it meant. Is part of Washington County. The island is named after Dutch, I didn't know this either, Dutch explorer Adrian Block. That's how it got its name, Block Island. And the town was named for Shoreham, Kent, in England. That'll make Andrew Pindar happy, I suppose.
Yes.
There's a beautiful aerial view of the island looking to the north, I believe. That is Little Rhode Island, at the top there of the screen, all this area. Newport being over here to the right. The Block Island is famous for not one, but two different lighthouses. This one was built in 1874, a little about 300 yards to the right. And then as the coastline, it's on the south, I believe it's on the southeast corner of Block Island. Yeah, it's a southeast light. And as the coastline has eroded, they had to move it inland to get it away from falling into the water some years ago. And now, in fact, I think it's just a museum
Is it
now.
red because of bricks?
Yes, it's famous. It was one of the most adorned, usually they were just white and they were kind of plain Jane, lowest bidder. But this one was built quite fancy back in the day. And now it's a museum. I believe they have a big steel tower that has the light on it now. What else going on here? I like Shoreham. John Emmett is saying, I used to race for Kent schools, and you can easily get to the sea via the river. And Ted Ryman is reminding us that it was 50 years ago that they made the Jaws movie, and of course, they used Montauk Point as part of that, right?
Oh.
And the Elizabeth Islands, if our memory serves.
Yeah.
Julia, you'd think poorly of me if I didn't have a video.
I would.
About Block Island.
I've been to Block Island many, many times, and there's a great deal of fun and history here, beside the fact of the good sailing and great camaraderie. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it.
We used to live on the docks because that's where the action was, that's where the beer was, and that's where we hung out.
And then you'd be drinking until you couldn't stand.
Plus there was this guy called Dr. Willie Faraguli.
He discovered birds that were very rare to the island. The double red-breasted mattress thrasher.
We used to be big in pyrotechnics.
You guys dropped a cherry bomb in the water, and the guy behind you sailed over, and it went off.
There are many, many stories about Block Island. I mean, they just go on and on and on and on.
Race Week was originally started in '65, and we needed sponsors. So Sean was in the advertising business, and Mount Gay came to him and said, we want you to advertise our brand. So Sean said, I can put you in front of 2,000 end users and confine them for a week. If you supply the rum, the mixers, and the ice, we'll provide the labor. Mount Gay did, and they sponsored Block Island Race Week. And it took off so well that everyone went back to their home clubs and asked to have Mount Gay on the bars.
Vinny Montesano created the Montesano cooler drink, which is a Mount Gay rum and another type rum and a mix. And they have a barrel, which we used last night. We almost had a real problem because the barrel was starting to fall apart. So we had 3 members, spent 2 months on the barrel, believe it or not, put it back together, and we mix Montesano coolers at most of our functions.
Yes, this barrel goes everywhere, and Mount Gay rum is the major component.
Ingredient that we use.
And I will tell you, I haven't had a drink in 15 years, and it's because of Montesano coolers. With 2 of them, I can speak any language in the world, easily. But a lot of us old-timers have come back because we have such fabulous memories of this place.
As we're standing here doing the interview, friends of ours are walking back and forth that we've known for 30, 40 years. And we do have some wonderful stories with them, and as Penny said, side-splitting laughter. And it's lasted all of these years.
Well, you know, it's there's Block Island and then there's Block Island Race Week. So what you do is you come here and not only are you enjoying the island itself, but it's old friends, new friends, people that you've sailed with and sailed against that makes it a special place. It's a sailing community that transports itself to Block Island for a week. This is sort of our family vacation.
So now you know why I chose this video. I was just speaking of Claire Harrington, I was talking to the Vice Commodore last night and a couple of the others, Super Fozy, and I said, what should lead today's show? And I often do that.
Right.
I often, you see me send that note around. And, I'll hear something from Gordon Smith if he's awake already in the morning, because I usually do it at our time, nighttime. But the Aussies and the Kiwis will usually weigh in, and Ed Worley and others. But last night, why are you doing Block Island Race Week? Well, now you know, because this is a drinking show, even though I don't drink. A drinking show with a sailing habit, and this is a fabulous place and a fabulous event. Bravo Zulu to the Storm Trysail Club, Margaritaville. And everybody claims to be the originator of Mount Gay rum being used in our beloved sport, but this may win the prize. Mm-hmm. And all those red hats that people have from, because Mount Gay just went hog wild. They sponsored the Big Boat Series. Right. They sponsored regattas all over this country and beyond. Steve Gruber's in the chat saying, my first Block Island Race Week, 1977. The whole team slept on the boat at anchor and raced with all of our stuff on board. There's Ed Worley celebrating Mount Gay rum. Jaws was filmed 50 years ago on Martha's Vineyard. They're celebrating Jaws Week at this very moment. She's out there, I believe, on the vineyard.
It's on TV right now too.
Is it?
Yeah.
The movie. St. Francis Yacht Club pours more Mount Gay than any club in the USA, so asserts Fog Machine, a.k.a. Lance Burke, and is second on the West Coast for Goslings, or so the booze reps told Lance Burke. Now, it's a great video, isn't it, Gordon Smith? Family, fun, great report, great event. Mark Holland can confirm that. Yeah, I like that comment too, Alistair Murray, with two of those drinks. You had to know Vinny Montesano too. And Busy Montesano and Penny. But with two of them, I can speak any language in the world, including, as Chris Bretschker will know, we on It's Okay, Julia, we say that if somebody has had a little bit too much to drink, he's speaking Welsh when they start to slur their words. I don't know why we laugh about drunkenness in our sport. Do the humans on Martha's Vineyard feel pretty safe? Claire's being asked by Dogzilla Monster, a.k.a. Stingray. Andrew McIrvin said he lived on a J24 for Cows Week. Now I have a 40-foot boat, and no one stays on board. MJ, hello, Mary Jude from Philadelphia. How we love Block Island. Hope to make it back there soon. Hey, this has really gotten a lot of nice comments to it. Blake Middleton, I'm thinking Pewaukee Yacht Club in Wisconsin might be historically a top Mount Gay rum venue in the world too, unless it's a different product. I doubt it. I doubt it. Yeah, Chris, there's Bretschker saying Welsh. Welsh, speaking Welsh. It is a beautiful spot. Let me show you some photos from yesterday. And I am very pleased to have been sent these and a link to these photos by the organizers, the Storm Trysail Club, and Mr. Cloutier, their superb photographer. Mm-hmm. Look at this. Now, this is the J44 class, now known as the 44-1 design. And you'll ask, well, why do they have all the same kites? Because the class, to cut down costs, has a very strict sail limit, like the Flying Scot class and some of the dinghy classes do too. You can only buy X many sails per year or multiple years, unless they get, if they break or they, then you could get it replaced or you can get it repaired. But they go in, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I believe the J44, now called the 44-1 design, they will do a group purchase of kites. So they all have not only the same kite, but the same year.
Right. Which is not a bad idea if you're trying to equal things.
Yeah. My first Block Island Race Week was in 85, didn't place, but had a blast sailing and dancing to Young Neil and the Vipers. Is that like Neil Young? Who's Young Neil?
I know.
Yeah, Gordon Smith saying, notice the Danish company, Orsted, is the sponsor. And of course, there's a big controversy in the Northeast because they've got a lot of wind farms, windmills. And of course, well, let's don't go into the politics, but there's big controversy. And Orsted, the Danish company,
Right.
is the one that installed, I think, most, if not all of them in and around Block Island.
Ah,
And that's why they're a sponsor of the regatta.
yeah.
Phil Burgess asking, did you get my email about the Sail Lab project in Australia to promote our wonderful sport by getting sailing into the school STEM program? I did, Phil, and I will reply in due course. Steve Groover saying the One Design 44 class owns all the sails used in their One Design event. So the class actually owns the sails. Thank you, Steve. Man, we got a smart group on here.
Yes, indeed.
Back to the photo, shall we? I just like this bow chick out there feeding the kite out. The kite's wrapped around the bowsprit. And just family fun. This is the Coast Guard Academy, Stormy Petrel. They did well in the New York regatta here a couple weeks ago. And then finally, one more video.
Being here on Block Island is a special place. I've been bringing Zach here and the whole family since the boys were 3 years old, and this is our second Block Island Race Week.
So I'm sailing with my dad, my uncle, and my husband, but I've been doing Block Island Race Week as a family since I was born. He started doing it when he was about 6 years old, so not to rat him out or anything, but that's about 55 years.
My first Block Island Race Week, I was 8 months old. Since then, it's been multiple regattas with my dad and my mom, and since my dad passed, my mom and I are continuing to campaign the boat. We're one of the few, maybe only mother-daughter team out there.
I did my first Block Island Race Week with my father in 1967. Sailing is just terrific, and it's a sport that men and women can compete in for decades. Sailing with my family is the greatest blessing I could have.
It's a little bit of an unceremonious ending, but I love that last line. It's the greatest blessing I could have to sail with my family.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
It is.
And yeah, I think, Andrew, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, is bow chick allowed? Yes. I know a lot of women who are quite happy to be called a bow chick, and it's impressive to see the work anybody does on the bow, women
Absolutely.
or otherwise.
Yes.
And, what are you going to call them, a bow person? That sounds ridiculous. Right?
Right. No,
you don't mind bow chick, do you?
No.
Were you a bow chick
never.
ever? You never went forward to the wheels.
No, not if I can help it. Only in emergencies.
Exactly. Nice group of sponsors. Fabulous event. Bravo Zulu to the Storm Trysail Club. Started in 65. It's, by the way, it's an every other year event. I believe it's biennial. So what is the anniversary, though, is 65 plus 40 is 05, and then another 20. So it's, 60 years? Is that right? Andrew's teasing. He's teasing me for being political. Why not bow woman? It's too much. Bow chick.
Yeah.
I was a bow dude. I like that on a 12. Ed Worley was saying he was a bow dude. One more picture of the kind of fun out there at Block Island Race Week, the 31st such edition, the 31st edition. They're racing through Friday. It's also a good idea. They start on Monday, so you can use the previous weekend to get your boat and crew out there. They race Monday through Friday, and then you've got the weekend to get home because these boats are from all over New England and beyond. I mean, some people at the end of the Annapolis-Newport race will go out and race Block Island. People come down from Boston and the Cape and so on. And a lot of boats from Long Island Sound, as well as Newport and all the Connecticut shore and so on. So
that's a big hole in my sailing experience.
Well, you're young. You can still get out there.
Yeah.
You can get out there. It does seem like there are still lots of the sort of Americans we understand out there. Thank goodness. Yes, indeed, Andrew McIrvin. Yes, Blake, Peter Taylor saying to Blake, Martha, Team 1 Newport was a famous bow chick. She sure was on the IACC, Bill Koch's teams. And Martha's coming on the show because her company, Team 1 Newport, is celebrating their, I think, 50th anniversary. It's hard to believe. I've known Martha forever.
Yeah, we talked to her the other day. You did.
Oh, Steve Gruber's giving me he's teasing me. Bauman, Maura Stevens, she says there's nothing wrong with Bauman for a woman. For me, terms do not bother me. Agreed. Okay, now we got him going on bow chick, Julia. Show number 845, saluting and featuring Storm Trysail's 31st Block Island Race Week. Julia, what happened on this day in history, the 20th? I didn't change the graphic. Talk about typos.
No.
The 24th of June, 1498.
Oh, 1498.
While you're thinking about that, Ryman he's asking, is Bao hottie okay? Yeah, because you could be a hot guy or a hot gal, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Julie, what happened on the 24th of June, 1498? Here's your first clue.
Oh, what explorer is that?
See if anybody in the chat knows.
And is he Portuguese?
Nope. Clayton Allen Embley saying, I've heard of winch wench. What about bow wench? No, let's not do that. Steve Gruber, only if the gender is neutral. I was a bow god in the 80s. That's good. Anybody come up with it? Nobody's got someone who discovered the solstice. No, he looks as old as the hills, though. Columbus' third trip to America. No. There were many dozens of amazing on this day historical happenings yesterday on June 23rd. Yeah, but we're doing June 24th. There were not so much, Blake. You're right. Well, that is a guy named John Cabot.
Aha.
He doesn't sound very Italian, does he? He changed his name when he got to Great Britain. He left Italy because he was in debt, and he escaped to Great Britain, and he talked the king into sending him on exploratory trips. He lived from 1450 to 1499. Hamish Ross, wouldn't you know it? Got it. Wouldn't you know it? Hamish, the historian.
Yes.
He landed in North America. Yes, he was apparently the first European to land on the North American continent after the Vikings. Cabot, I didn't know this either. Cabot rose to prominence as a Venetian merchant who traveled widely. After leaving Venice due to bad debts, he reached England in 1495. In 96, he was granted a royal patent to search for new lands under the flag of England by King Henry VII. Cabot departed from the port of Bristol in 1497 aboard his ship, the Matthew, and reached the coast of what is thought to be Newfoundland, in June 1498. He returned to England and was rewarded. Boy, whoever typed that didn't do. That's not my typing. That was a cut and paste off of on this day, and was rewarded by the king. So it was on this day, Julia, in history, that John Cabot claims part of North America, what is now Eastern Canada, for England, believing he has found Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they were all looking for Asia. They didn't know that North America existed. The Vikings did. They weren't quite sure, I guess, what to call it. That's what happened this day in history, 24th of June, 1497.
It was in those years that the French started sending ships for fishing to that
you
area.
were talking about that on the show on Friday.
Yeah.
We couldn't quite get that out. But yeah, the French and others. I mean, a lot of people were sending stuff around, looking and fishing, and they keep going further west. And right? Okay, Julia.
Sir.
Some SailGP news. Big headline, SailGP unveils tender process for 2 expansion teams. Now, the tender process is news, but we've known that they were planning to expand by 2 teams in 2026. And everybody's saying, well, how are they going to run so many teams on that small course? And apparently Russell's going to run 2 divisions. He's going to run 2 different, splits, apparently. But here's some more info released here in the last 24 hours. SailGP has confirmed expansion plans for 2026, unveiling details of a tender process to seek investment for ownership of 2 new teams, alongside available stakes across existing national teams. Yeah, there's maybe some other teams that need to be financed. There are, for sure. Open to investors across sport, business, and entertainment, the tender will provide interested groups a structured, high-integrity pathway into one of the world's most innovative, fastest-growing sports. I'm glad they use the word leagues and not properties.
Yeah.
Expressions of interest are now open, with initial bids closing in mid-August. The selection process is set to complete early September 2025. So if you want to own a SailGP team, and you're not already in an existing country, because I don't think they want to duplicate, although you never know. Somebody came along with big bucks. Russell, you know.
You got to listen.
He might listen. That's kind of wouldn't know I'm not sure if that's big news, but it was the title of the big news, lead news, I should say, on their website. But here was an interesting video that got released by SailGP about Sir Ben, and I wonder how happy Sir Ben is about this video. Have a look.
A man overboard, a team reshuffle, and the GOAT of British sailing steps away from the wheel. What on earth's going on at Emirates GBR? And why did Sir Ben Ainslie, Britain's most decorated sailor, just quit SailGP? This isn't just a team change, it's the biggest shake-up in British sailing for a decade. Well, it's been a crazy 12 months for British sailing. There's been crew fallouts, there's been swaps, new people in the team. It's been absolute chaos under the surface. At the centre of it, Sir Ben Ainslie, Olympic hero, America's Cup battler, SailGP pioneer, and now spectator from a chase boat. Let's talk about the breakup with Giles Scott. Long-time teammate, tactician, two-time gold medalist. He's gone. And we've got Dylan Fletcher coming in now. I mean, Dylan's used to pressure. He's been there. He's done it all before. But filling Ben Ainslie's shoes, how's that going to feel for a pressure perspective? In a recent New York Times interview, Sir Ben Ainslie said, and I quote, "You've got to know when to get out your own way. That's not defeat. That's self-awareness. He's stepping back to focus on ownership and team building." Well, Ben's done that. He's stepped back from the team. Of course, he's still around all the events, and he's not going to be able to resist getting his opinion in on race day. We know that for sure. They've got the sponsors there on the ground, and Ben's made a tactical move. He's trying to grow Emirates GBR, build the brand, build the product. Well, it says one thing loud and clear. That's British sailing's entering a new era. So what's happening? Well, Dylan's come and taken the wheel. The team has everything to prove. And Ben, well, he's not disappearing. He's repositioning. From on-deck hero to power broker behind the scenes, Dylan has come out of the gates flying to ensure the Emirates GBR team are still a force to be reckoned with in this league. Well, Ben Ainslie didn't just step off the boat. He's driving something much bigger. But will the team thrive without him on the boat? That's the question we want to answer, and I'd love to hear your comments on the subject. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell. We've got more top stories coming from the elite end of world sailing in the future. Till then, stay on the foils.
Stay on the foils, Julia. You got to stay on your foils.
I never was on my foils.
Okay, so there is the, I thought, rather strange video. Yeah, it's a promotion maybe for some more kind of drive to, what's the Formula One show called? Drive to Succeed or something?
Yeah.
I'm guessing Artemis will be one of these new teams. Dogzilla Monster saying Artemis meaning Swedes. Well, SI Commodore Julia is going to lead the new American team, of course. Well,
of course.
I just wish American Magic would buy that team and put it out of its misery, is what I'm hoping. John Emmett said he saw Stevie at WPNSA at the weekend. He was about 100 meters from where I filmed today's CC, Coaching Corner. Yeah, it's a weird video. I agree, Alistair Murray. And of course, I was calling for Ben to step off the America's Cup boat, Drive to Survive. Thank you, Andrew Pindar. That was the name. That's the F1 ongoing docu series, documentary series.
And Ted Ryman.
And Ted Ryman's got it too. Mm-hmm. So I'm surprised by that video myself, but they're trying to obviously drum up some drama. How was that for alliteration? Drum up some drama. You're not impressed.
Well, I think what he did was saying things change.
Well, fair enough. And they do change, right?
Yeah. And I rather, he said, I know when it's time to get out. And
you like that? I do too. No, I'm with you. I'm with you, Julia. Okay, now we have another video, and this is just a promo for the upcoming event. And maybe this was a promo as well for the upcoming event. The upcoming event in Portsmouth. good on video, doesn't it?
It does.
Huh? Yeah. John Emmett will be there, maybe a few others of you. And yeah, Andrew McIrvin is saying, yeah, it's a drive to survive for Sir Ben, I think is what he means there, which may not apply here. And I don't know if Ben's team's going to make it. The America's Cup we'll get to here in a sec. But, man, it's tough sledding for Ben and for his team, the America's Cup team. He's got a lot on his plate.
Right.
A lot on his plate, Julia. Okay, speaking of the America's Cup, here we go. AC38 in Naples. I mean, some of you accused me of putting clickbait on my personal Facebook page the other day with that bit about the caldera, about the volcano next to right where the boats are supposedly going to be parked.
Right.
But look, the America's Cup is now in less than 2 years. And they say they're going to, that Bagnoli area, they're going to forget about the volcano for a minute, but that they're going to somehow paper that over. And I was talking with somebody senior serious in the Cup who says, yeah, they probably, what they'll do is just pour concrete on the area and kick the can down the road because there's no way they're going to do a proper remediation of that place where they say they're going to locate the teams. And of course, if there's only 2 or 3 teams, it's not a pressing matter.
They don't have to relocate.
They can leave the teams in the Bay of Naples.
Right.
So the Cup is teetering, I think. We'll see here. We've heard the news, and there's more news about defections from Team New Zealand. And we also knew that not only that Pete Burling was going, or that he did go. I think that was a bit of a surprise to most of us, and we told you about that a week or so ago. But then the New Zealand Herald has jumped on the news that I think most of us on this show knew that Josh Jr. had also left, and had left some time ago from Team New Zealand to Luna Rossa and signed with them. Well, the New Zealand Herald in the last couple of days made a big deal of this. Luna Rossa are making waves. On Friday, the Italian syndicate set the America's Cup realm abuzz as they announced the signing of former ETNZ helmsman Peter Burling. Yes, okay, that did raise a few eyebrows.
Yes.
It was a major coup given his success at the top level and knowledge of the AC-75 foiling monohulls. But that wasn't all they accomplished in their recruitment drive. Former Team NZ sailor Josh Jr. has signed on with Luna Rossa for the 38th edition of the America's Cup, set to be contested in the Italian city of Naples in 2027, and has been with the Italian syndicate for the past few months, as we have reported to you here. And wait, there's more. Junior's role with the Italians is yet to be defined, with the protocol for the regatta not yet confirmed. It is still not the protocol. Of course, those of you who are Cup heads know that's the ground rules for the next event. It is still not known when to expect a finalized protocol, after initial indications were that it would be unveiled by, June 20th.
Yeah.
A draft version of the document released by Team New Zealand indicated up to 2 non-nationals may participate as a crew member for racing in the new cycle, provided they did not race with another team in the final preliminary regatta of the Challenger Series or the America's Cup match in Barcelona, meaning the previous Cup. The so-called Burling rule, as I think I probably called it, but any number of people would have as well. As you always say, follow the money. Yes, Chris Fury, that's absolutely right. So Blake Middleton is saying 2 AC teams, as he's been predicting. Ed Worley is saying if the land area is polluted, just pouring concrete over it will not stop the exposure in the water. Well, that's ongoing, Ed. So the problem is the people operating on the concrete slab above and around and in the water off that slab. It's not probably going to be correct. So that was in Sunday's paper, I believe, in the New Zealand Herald. Christopher, is it Reeve or Rive? Somebody tell me in the comments how you, I mean, if it was a German name, you would pronounce it Rive, but probably they've anglicized it and call it Reeve, like the actor. Dogzilla Monster asserts that BA is considering, with encouragement from help from Dubins, EB and DDV, a dog match. Yeah. I don't know. That's Dubins is that's Ernesto Bertarelli is EB, and DV is Doug DeVos. I don't know who Dubins. Who's Dubins? Dogzilla Monster, A Stingray. Who do you think who is Dubins in your little thing there? Well, I can tell you something else. that the challengers, or at least Alinghi, have a law firm, and one here is New York Yacht Club's, and I can't get a peep out of Claire, but this is the big law firm that's been hired by Alinghi and maybe others in that challenger cabal, and I don't blame them one bit. Hogan Lovells is one of the world's largest international law firms. The firm was formed in 2010 through the merger of U.S. firm Hogan and Hartson and the UK firm Lovells. The merger created a global law firm with a significant footprint in both the U.S. and Europe. Today, the firm has more than 2,700 lawyers,
wow,
including 800, Julia, 800 partners in over 47 offices across the world, and a dozen in the U.S. alone.
How many will be left after AI takes call?
Well, that's a good question, too. But I heard not only this news that I heard from a reliable source, but I've also heard this. So I'm saying, and then there is this from an enormously reliable source. Quote, bad last handful of days regarding the protocol. Sounds like Grant Dalton told some of the challengers, including Ernesto, to F off. Now the likelihood of a DOG match is extremely high, and litigation is coming down the pipeline in a few weeks, if not days. Or so I am told by one of our normally reliable sources. And I mean extremely reliable sources. So I don't want to see this happen. Magnus wrote a really weird piece today. Magnus, I love your stuff, but today you're quoting, and I sent it to Hamish Ross. It'll be interesting if he wants to put anything in the comments. Probably time to get Hamish back on here. Magnus is quoting the second deed when the Cup is operating now under the third 1887 deed. So I'm not quite sure where Magnus was getting off about today. And the headline of his piece was "When Hell Freezes Over," like, you know, Grant Dalton is not going to acquiesce to any of these challengers, I guess is what he means. But Magnus continues to be completely optimistic, having talked with him a fair bit in the last few days, that the French are in. He says that Madame Betancourt, L'Oreal, is in and is going to be playing ball with the French team, meaning supporting the French team.
Right.
He also says that the bank Société Générale, SocGen, is also going to back the French team and that they're in.
Wow.
And if that's the case, that I can't imagine that the Italians will be challenger of record. But that would mean to me, again, as we've been saying, that the French will be the challenger of record, because I don't think Mr. Dalton and Mr. Bertelli, who had a very bad go back in 2021 when Prada was the challenger of record, when Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli, and their yacht club in Sicily was the Palermo was the challenger of record. I don't think that's going to get repeated, nor do anyone else, any of our other regular sources, think that's going to happen again. So that means the French would be the challenger of record. However, if this talk about the French is just blue fairy madness, and if there are only going to be two teams, that's not technically a deed of gift match. What that is a two-team match. They may still agree to a protocol and not race under the default provisions of the deed of gift. It's a deed of gift match, a dog match, when the teams can't agree on other on a protocol, on a class of boat, on other things, and they just go off and race under the strict terms, the default provisions of the deed of gift, when you can't reach agreement otherwise. So we'll see what happens. It wouldn't surprise me if it's the Italians against Team New Zealand, two boats. I don't know how they're going to pull this off in 2027, Julia, but if you read Magnus this morning, he's now talking about them building no new boats, racing AC-75s, modifying the existing AC-75s.
It makes more sense.
And, well, in the short time remaining, it does, plus it saves money. But that's not what the America's Cup is about. You're going to now go race in a completely different wind and weather regime from Barcelona, meaning Naples, and you're going to force the teams to use the existing boats. We know which boat was fastest in Barcelona. We know which team's been working on the rule since Barcelona, because they're writing and rewriting the rule. That's the Emirates Team New Zealand and their design team. So you talk about the defender just piling on one advantage after another.
Yes. And then what happens if no one challenges him?
Well, if no one challenges, well, then he's left holding the proverbial bag. Exactly right. What are the comments here? The big argument is about not only Grant Dalton's opaque financing, yeah, because the financing is the big argument, but also about his AC partnership idea. The challengers want this for the next event and for the long term. They want it for this event. They negotiated at length in Barcelona trying to get an agreement on an AC partnership. But oh boy, cyclers, no, Alan Long, that's the interesting thing about this, that if they use the existing boats, the presumption is they're going to cut the cyclers out and put batteries in, retrofit the boats. I mean, this is a massive redo of the boats. And Ed Worley is asking, if there are only 2 teams or even 3 teams, what will that do to the provisions of the contract for the venue? Well, again, I'm not so worried about that. I think probably Julia and Ed and others, as I've said before on this show, when you do an event agreement, and I've been involved in a lot of these over the years, you do a host city agreement. Hamish Ross will tell you the same thing. You do a deal just like advertisers do on television, and there's called givebacks. And you say, okay, we expect this kind of a rating. We expect this many visitors. We expect this much economic impact. And if we don't reach that number of teams or that amount of economic impact, there'll be some give back. In other words, instead of paying whatever the contract amount is, you normally pay it in thirds, a third on signing, a third a year out, and a third after the thing's over. So that final tranche, 1/3 tranche, may not get paid if the event is way below expectations. Same happens in television and advertising. An advertiser buys a deal, the NBA Finals, and if the viewership is way below that, then they're givebacks. And they either get freebies down the road, or they don't have to pay as much, or whatever.
Whose pocket does that come out of? The loss.
Well, it will be money not paid to Grant Dalton by, in this case, by the host, by the venue.
It's a lovely solution.
Well, we'll see what happens. So what are these other comments? Hamish Ross, it's all about Dalton scoring another win if it's even a non-event. Yeah, he scores a win and he pockets money, and so it's not a good situation. It's just not a good. That's why, if I do say so myself, Julia, that's why the Magic Cup makes a lot more sense.
It does.
Do it year after year or every other year, whatever the teams want. And make it the Wimbledon or the Masters of our sport. Do it in the same venue. Do it in Newport. Do it in 12s. Do it in rule legal 12s. Don't reinvent it with super 12s and the stuff I was talking about 10 years ago. Just do it in rule legal 12s and get on with it. A lot of people think that is a good idea. A lot of people also think that this trustee, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, fine club, fine people, beautiful venue, fabulous city. We really enjoyed our time living there. But they have delegated illegally under New York law and under the deed of gift their trustee duties, authorities, responsibilities to Emirates Team New Zealand in the person of Grant Dalton. And they should be castigated, which is what we do every show. And they are the worst trustee in the history of the America's Cup. And it's not just me saying that, it's a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Ed Worley wants to have a Zoom call on the Magic Cup plan. Well, we might do that. I got to get through Rose Cup this coming weekend. I'll be going down to Newport Beach for that. That is the U.S. National Youth Match Racing Championship, named after our Super Fozy Andy Rose. And Andy and I'll be doing the television commentary on Saturday and Sunday. You saw in the chat earlier, Chris Bretschker, who's our executive producer, and he produces the show and switches the show. We'll be out on the water doing that Saturday and Sunday, the U.S. Youth National Match Racing Championship down at Balboa Yacht Club. They've hosted it there once before, and we've done the television for it, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris Bretschker, 3 or 4 times. We did it once in San Diego, once in Long Beach, maybe at Balboa once before. I can't remember. I'm getting too old, Julia. I'm getting too old. Why do you laugh?
Oh, you're such a pup.
Blake Middleton says, are we done? Talking about the America's Cup today, yes. I said Wimbledon. No, it's Wimbledon. I thank you, Alistair, for correcting me in the chat. The Wimbledon or the Masters, the Augusta of our sport. That's what we're talking about, as well as the worst trustee in the history of the Cup. And we'll move on to the last leg. My goodness, Julia, we're an hour and 45 minutes into this show.
Oh, we've only begun.
We've only just begun. Remember who sang that?
To live.
In the 70s, To Live. Yeah. Every high school used that as their graduation song or the theme of their yearbook or everything. The Carpenters.
Oh, it's the Carpenters.
The Carpenters. We do this every Tuesday and Friday at 1300 Pacific. Thank you for joining us today for our show number 845. Who runs the 12-meter events nowadays? The ITMA, the International 12-Meter Association. ITMA, and they run the class. They run various championships, regional championships, world championships from time to time. And they have a vice president here in North America. They have a vice president in Northern Europe and a vice president in Southern Europe, a technical committee. The class is going just fine. Just fine. They'd probably be really delighted to have some new boats built, too, in the meantime. The Carpenters, Karen Carpenter. We won't talk about some of the challenges she had. She had bulimia. She was so worried about being skinny, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
she starved herself.
Starved herself to death, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's talk about pleasant things like here in the last leg, Julia. Coming soon, I'm fully informed and reliably informed by Christiane Price, because she's probably very pleased to see this coming, because it will be in part about her son and our well, he's not a super Fozy, but he's certainly a Fozy. Harry Price, coming soon.
Yes.
Check it out.
For me, once you sail 18-foot skiffs, it's pretty hard to sail anything else that will turn you on, you know.
We're quite big boats, we're going quite quickly.
Oh, we can't.
To be the best at what you do, you got to live on the edge of it.
They want to live an intense life, and this boat is providing a lot of intensity.
Hey! Help!
The most dangerous part is punching the spinnaker into the water and stopping dead. You really don't get a lot of say about where you're going to finish up.
Our mentality this week is we came here to win, and second, third, 10th doesn't matter.
That looked like a cool documentary. It's coming. In fact, I think it's already done. I think it's in the can, and I think there is a viewing of it that Christiane Price and
really?
Pricey, David Price, are going to, probably Harry and some of the others.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
There's nothing more fun to watch than the 18s.
Well, exactly. Big monohulls that we can all relate to, we can at least aspire to, sailing in those boats.
Yeah.
And that's why the Magic Cup is aspirational, and that's why the TP52s are aspirational, and all the stuff that's going on at Block Island Race Week right now. And yes, we need progress, and we need the foilers, and we need other things, but I remind you once again that the class that has the best representation, the Olympic class that has the best representation, is a 50-year-old boat, the Ilka.
Oh, yeah.
The Ilka.
Yeah.
Are we going to kick that out of the Olympics because it's old?
Certainly.
Huh?
No.
And Fritz Mueller agrees. The 18s rock.
Yep.
Steve Gruber wants to know the difference between a Fozy and a super Fozy. Well, Fozy, it's all in my mind, Steve. We'll define that better in due course. But the Super Fozy are regulars who've been on the show, as well as contributors who give us a few bucks as patrons.
Right.
And who voted on the Person of the Year.
Right.
The Yacht's Person of the Year.
Yeah.
We'll give you that list sometime. Julia, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, only 3 today. And Gordon Smith's going to be happy because we have one of his cartoons.
Okay.
Now, this is clever. The lady, this could be you, Julia, going up to the student loans window, someplace at the uni.
I love it.
She says, I'd like a cute one, a cute student who's at least 21 and enjoys gardening. And maybe more, Julia.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Have you ever tried to borrow a student at student loans?
Yes.
Oh, you have? Did you succeed?
No.
That's from Gordon Smith, and that's a funny, isn't it?
Yes, it's lovely.
Okay, now here's one you may shake your. This is okay. This is relaxed. I can't believe you've been stranded here for 30 years, the Navy guy says. What have you been doing all this time? Julia, I dedicate that to you. That's what you would have been done if you and the late, great Conrad had been stranded on some desert island. Wouldn't have you?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
No finger shake for that, right? Clayton Embley sent that. And finally, I'm going to repeat because it was popular what Blake Middleton gave us the other day.
Yeah.
And I've used this before, but Blake, it's so good. All the smartest people sail. Sent in by Blake Middleton.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it. We managed to get in under 2 hours before 1500 our time.
Mm-hmm.
As Steve Gruber says, it's all about the money. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Julie, at this point in the show, you like to say...
Oh, yes. Do not miss the opportunity to like, follow, and share. And especially do all three.
And comments. You can carry on.
And comments are welcome. Always, even in replay, if you're in the middle of the night watching us, do comment.
Because we leave them open because most everyone, whoever, we get the odd troll, we get the odd crouton who says something mean or nasty or coarse language, God forbid. But not in Alan Long's case, not in Steve Gruber's case. These are all people who support us, and we're deeply appreciative. Everyone who supports us, whether you come on the show, whether you watch the show, whether you give us a few bucks a month. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. It's the only way we can stay alive, Julia.
Indeed.
I haven't used camera 4 today, but camera 4 and here is the Claire Harrington. She gave us this monitor. This was a 4K 27-inch monitor. She sent the money for that, and unsolicited, too. I appreciate that very much. Alistair Murray, have fun in the rest of your time in Europe. We're going to have one from Alistair Murray in AAAA on Friday.
Oh, good.
And maybe I'll get Peter Stevenson's little interview that he did. And when he gets back, we're going to cover that, what he's doing with his 12-meter.
Yes.
He's got Australia. It's just really, really cool. Bravo Zulu to him. Thanks to all of you, all of the FOSI for support. Thank you, Thierry de Jong, for your support, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, and everybody else who comes in, especially those who maybe not in, but give us audio, video, and images for each of our shows twice a week. Julia, final thoughts?
Oh, I think there's lots to do in this sport.
There is. And hopefully, well, let's don't get into it anymore. We won't revisit the America's Cup or U.S. sailing's problems. Let's just have fun on this show with a great group of FOSI, wherever in the world you are. Have a great rest of your week. Speaking of sailing, and if you can, please go sailing, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. See you Friday.